Welcome back to Vintage HLC Show and Tell. Today we're going to look at a particular decal that was used by Homer Laughlin from the 1930s all the way into the late 1960s. And it starts off its life as VR-235, also known as Armand. Armand is a name that was coined by Richard Ratcheter in his book on Virginia Rose. It's also known as Dixie Rose, though I'm not sure how that name came about or where it's used. But its official treatment number, when it appears on Virginia Rose with 3 sprigs and platinum edge, is VR-235. That's the first time it was used around 1932-1933. So there's your large sprig with the pink roses and the daisy. There's the medium sprig. And there's a small version. Platinum edge, and this particular piece is marked with the Virginia Rose back stamp from 1955 with the official treatment number stamped underneath, VR-235. So this pattern was used in at least 17 different ways, depending on the shape, the number of sprigs, and whether it was gold or platinum or no trim at all. And it probably holds the record. I'm not sure if there's any other decal that was used more ways than this one. Here we see it with the 3 sprigs and platinum edge. If it was only 2 sprigs with platinum edge, it would be VR-258. If it was 2 sprigs with no edge line, then it's VR-257. There's also a version with gold trim. I think that number is in the 400s. But this would go on to be used on Marigold and OvenServe and Daisy Chain and Kitchen Kraft, Modern Farmer, Liberty, Republic, Nautilus Eggshell, Georgian Eggshell, and Georgian Ivory. I'm sure there are others, but I only know of 17 instances. Here's another Virginia Rose example. Again, 3 sprigs platinum edge. We saw this in the video on Rose and Poppy, where Colgate was offering this line with Octagon soap. You could redeem the soap coupons for sets of dinnerware with this pattern. So that's a little bit about Virginia Rose. It's rather common on OvenServe. The embossed OvenServe line. We see it here again with 3 sprigs. There's the large sprig, the medium sprig, and then the small one. Again with platinum edge. And there's your OvenServe back stamp. In this form, it's OS 66. If there are 3 sprigs with no trim, then it's OS 88. It was also used on the apple tree bowls, by the way, same treatment number, OS 66. Also, Royal OvenServe. This is not marked, but it has the double foot with the rings. So this is Royal OvenServe. If it had 1 foot and a little more concave, it would be Kitchen Kraft. But again, 3 sprigs, platinum edge. So that's OS 66. Embossed OvenServe cake lifters, or cake knives. We see a sprig here, but we have a smaller version on this one. This is more than likely to go with Kitchen Kraft, which we'll see in a moment. 3 of the 5 sizes of mixing bowls from OvenServe. And it's rather interesting that they would put this type of decal on embossed OvenServe, because you have the Rose and Poppy embossing underneath and then this overglaze floral decal, and they kind of interfere with one another. 10-inch, 9-inch, and 8-inch, or I think this is actually 7 3/4, the smaller one. Homer Laughlin, not for oven use, made in the USA. So they would put this type of marking on the mixing bowls because this type of ware, with its glaze and body formulation, was not meant to go from the refrigerator or the oven to the table like the rest of the OvenServe pieces were. "10.5-inch pie plate from OvenServe. We see 5 sprigs on here, a larger piece, so it gets more decals. There's your OvenServe embossing. Pretty faint marking. 11.5-inch platter. 3 sprigs, platinum edge, again, OS 66. And then we have a rather unusual piece here. This is Georgian OvenServe. I've not gone over this line yet. Very limited assortment, comes around the same time as embossed OvenServe, I think maybe a year later in 34. It's marked Georgian Dinnerware, USA. But we see our VR-235 yet again on another shape. This particular piece is missing its lid. I have a photo of one with its lid, which doubles as a little nappy. But you can tell Georgian OvenServe not only by the marking, but the little dash and dot embossing that you would find on Georgian ivory and even Georgian eggshell dinnerware. And Kitchen Kraft. When Kitchen Kraft was developed in 1937, VR-235 was one of the initial treatments. The treatment number from Kitchen Kraft is KK308. We see one here with a nice little sticker. Anytime you find a sticker like this, a vintage sticker, pretty much guaranteed that the piece was never used. There's the Kitchen Kraft marking. Platinum trim. And we see that little small decal sprig that we also saw on the cake lifter, used on the finial of the Kitchen Kraft casserole. Kitchen Kraft jug. A little bit later, probably comes from the 1950s. You might be able to tell the glaze difference, how this is a little more white because of its white body as opposed to this yellow glaze on this one. And finally, a Kitchen Kraft mixing bowl, which I want to talk about this for a moment, because this is from 1967. So we have a decal treatment that originates around 1932, 1933, goes all the way to the late 1960s. And something interesting happens at Homer Laughlin during this time period, 67, 68, and then even into 69. There's this shift in dinnerware programs, in styles and decorations. Gold and platinum start to disappear. Decals are used less and less, and we see more silk screen patterns. We see more stamp patterns. This is also true of other potteries that are still around at this time, like Taylor Smith & Taylor and Chester and Royal China and Sebring. So if you think of Homer Laughlin lines that are around the late 60s and early 1970s, like Provincial and Granada, Bristol and Hearthside, you don't see decorations like this anymore. So anything that's sort of left over from the 30s or even prior, by the time you get to the late 1960s, they're doomed. So Virginia Rose is finally discontinued in the late 1960s. Republic is discontinued. Fiesta even gets restyled. You have Sheffield Amberstone and Coventry Casual Stone, you get Fiesta Ironstone, and even that doesn't last by 1973. And all these old decal treatments are just vanish, as does the gold and platinum. So this represents the end of the line, not only for Armand or VR-235 or KK308, whatever you want to call it, but for this whole type of decoration and whole type of style that Homer Laughlin had done for so many years. But this shift that occurs, that started in it started in the early 1960s with Orbit and Vogue and lines like that. But by the time you get to the late 1960s, all this older type dinnerware, quote unquote older type dinnerware, just starts to disappear completely. So that's going to be it for now on VR-235 or Armand, if you want to call it that. I'm sure we will look at more decals in the future and see how they're used on different shapes and in different ways.